All right, in this section, we're going to be looking at relational operators, basically comparison. Things that you've done earlier in your schooling in terms of comparing values, greater than, less than, etc. Now let's take a look to see how this works with Python. The objectives for this is we're going to find out the understanding of relational operators and their types, and basically how relational operators are going to be utilized. So we have basically these operators that you've seen in previous courses, most likely in math, and basically the meaning of these things are going to be as the following here. So this is going to be greater than, less than, greater or equal to, less than or equal to. This is equal to. Now you got to remember that this is a double equal, because a single equal is basically assigning a value to a variable. So this is what we need to do when we're doing comparison. We need to utilize that double equal. So let's take a look to see how relational operators are utilized. And let's say that we have variables of x and y of 1 and 9. And when we compare them, they're going to result in basically a Boolean expression in terms of a true and false. So when we look at that, when it gets evaluated, it is basically 1 less than 9, which is true, or 1 greater than 9, which is false. Well, let's take a look to see how the code actually looks. So up here are going to be my values for the variables. Over here, this section is just displaying what the values are. And then here I have basically the test cases associated with the variables. So I'm going to run basically the code here. And when we run it, you can see that I'm displaying the values of these. So this is basically this set of code. And then this section over here is referring down below here. So I have a couple of dashed lines up there, and then basically is x less than y, and that's basically true. And then is x greater than y, and that's going to be false, because here what the system is doing then is x is going to be 1 less than 9. That's true for this. And then this one here is 1 greater than 9, and that's false, and that's how it generates it. So this is basically just showing you how things are going to be evaluated with the system. So in future labs, what we're going to be doing is comparing values here. There won't be a need to actually display things out, because once we get to some other conditions, evaluations, we might need to display them for debugging purposes and things along those lines. The other thing is this: the relational operators could also be utilized with strings. So for example, I have x is equal to cat, y is equal to car, and then basically once again, is x less than y false, is x greater than y true, and basically what we're doing is substituting. So is cat cat less than car, and that's false, because basically if we look at the alphabetical letters here, T is going to be greater than R, and then here cat is greater than car, which is true because T over here, because the first two characters are the same. And let's take a look to see how that works in our next code here. So as you can see, I have a different program, and we have our variables that are associated with it. I also had another one with the Z here that you guys will do a little bit later on with another syntax. And once again, we're displaying the values here, and then we're basically utilizing this to print out the values. So when I run the code, these values here are referring back to that. And then our print statements here, so is x less than y, that's false, and then is x greater than y, that is true, because again, as I showed you in the earlier example, that's how the output is going to be displayed. So the next thing you're going to do is there is a lab with relational operators that you're going to do, and you're going to do some tests. So you're going to create integers and string variables. You're going to use the relational operators to get the Boolean value, and then use the F strings to display the output of that. So that is it with this particular segment.